It is often called the highway to nowhere, a stretch of US 40 that sits empty of cars, a visible reminder of the hundreds of families who were forced from their homes for a highway that was never finished. So the question, what to do with it? Our media partner, the Baltimore Banner, has a couple of interesting articles about solutions found by other cities, first Buffalo and now Rochester, New York, that had the same sort of issue. And reporter Jack Bologna joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us, Jack. So in your article, you talk about, the actual title is, Rochester Gave Up on a Highway and Filled It In. Should Baltimore? So obviously the first question is, by what you read and learned, should we take one of these solutions?
Yeah, Denise, I wish it were as simple as saying, yes, we should do exactly what either Rochester or Buffalo did, but unfortunately it is a little bit more complex, but there's definitely lessons to learn from both cities. As you mentioned, the highway to nowhere, displaced a lot of folks, and there's similar stories in a lot of other cities across America. And so Rochester, what they had is they had a highway that really kind of cut off a lot of neighborhoods from their downtown that was not used as much. And they realized that they really could just fill that in, turn it into a boulevard, and then build housing on top, which they did. However, the city of Rochester really started planning for this decades ago and was really intentional about this work for a long time. 75 miles to the west in Buffalo, they're kind of having a conversation similar, maybe a few years ahead of us here in Baltimore, about what to do with their highway, the Kensington Expressway, which is used by a lot more cars. And they thought about maybe actually turning it into a tunnel. Some other cities have turned highways into tunnels by kind of building a cap on top of them. However, that's just a lot more expensive. It preserves the highway, but again, it's just a much more expensive and kind of complicated process.
Well, obviously, we don't need the highway. Nobody's using it right now. It's just sitting there. So it's not a necessary highway or pathway for cars at this moment, anyway.
There's definitely a reason why it's called the highway to nowhere, because obviously it never, connected to the Beltway as initially designed. I will say that there are some cars that do use it, probably way fewer than was initially anticipated. But that's kind of why, I think folks need to discuss, how do we want to address this? Because if it's as easy as maybe filling it in, that would be a much cheaper option, but you would be getting rid of an artery that some people do use.
Yeah, although every time I've been on it with somebody else in the car, they go, what is this? What is it for?
Yes.
Yeah. There is some money that was promised by the federal government, or at least at one point was around $85 million, I guess, to get this project going. Mm-hmm. Do we know, A, do we have this money? Does the city have the money? And B, would that be used for this planning stage?
Yeah, so it's a little unclear if Baltimore will actually get the money. It was awarded by the federal government under the Biden administration, just near the end. And it's interesting, yeah, like what is the city going to do with the highway to nowhere? The planning department had actually looked at Rochester as a potential model, but the Department of Transportation, which worked with the federal government to get that grant money, under their plan, much of it would go toward constructing a one-block cap that would start to kind of build that ceiling over the highway to nowhere.
Interesting articles, interesting to see how other cities solve these problems. Thank you for joining us as always, Jack. Do appreciate it. And if you'd like to read his article and other great independent reporting from our media partner, the Baltimore Banner, just head to thebaltimorebanner.com.